pretty newsy that Tyler O'Neill could be more in the works for center field. I think when the season is starting here, you're envisioning, if everything happens the way the Cardinals want it to happen, I think you're envisioning Tyler O'Neill in left, Dylan Carlson in center, Lars Nootbaar in right, at least the first opportunity. I believe everybody's excited about what Jordan Walker can bring, but you just wonder who's the first one of those guys to fail, and if it's Dylan Carlson and you're liking Tyler O'Neill in center, that is a good way to potentially fast-track a Jordan Walker into a corner outfield spot.
So he will be a center fielder for Team Canada at the World Baseball Classic. And apparently the interesting part to me is Ollie Marmol says that Tyler brought that up to him, that he would like to be looked at possibly in center field. If I'm the Cardinals, and let's remember, O'Neill's already a two-time Gold Glover in left, I might not want to mess with that. Secondly, you have a guy whose main purpose this year is to stay on the field. Stay on the field, avoid injury. Maybe I don't put more on his plate from that perspective. But I agree, if you're thinking maybe Alec Burleson is a guy that can do it, Jordan Walker goes to camp and wows everyone, more opportunities for these guys with the World Baseball Classic, and maybe one of them takes the ball and runs with it, and you want to create space. But if that's me, just on the surface, again, two-time Gold Glove winner in left, who he actually told me, and I said this on the air, he's like, yeah, I only have this slice of field to worry. Pretty easy for me to handle that. And also with the other thing about trying to stay healthy, I wouldn't be my priority to put that on the plate for him. Now, if events unfold that dictates that, I'm fine with it, but that wouldn't be something that I would be eager to pursue.
And going back in time here, I'm not saying that the Harrison Bader trade was a bad deal. I'm not, because the Cardinals needed pitching, and I really like Jordan Montgomery. I think that's going to be a fair deal for both teams. I think Harrison Bader is going to do great there. It's all good. But I do think it points out how difficult it is in baseball. I think there are, you can talk about catcher, but there are two positions, in my opinion, that are very hard to fill with legit players that are supposed to play that position, and that is center field and shortstop. And the Cardinals are kind of going through, I don't want to say issues, but with both positions. Like Tommy Edman is really, really good at shortstop, but I think most people would prefer Tommy Edman as a Gold Glove second baseman, and then Brendan Donovan is your all-purpose Ben Zobrist if you have a Mason Wim type. Now, I'm not saying Tommy Edman can't play shortstop. In the same way, I'm not saying that Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson, and Lars Nootbaar can't play center field. But they're not your plug-them-in Gold Glove center fielder like you had with Harrison Bader. And that guy is really hard to replace. Like, I think Tyler O'Neill can play center. I don't know if I love that. I think we saw Dylan Carlson can play center. I think he's really good at playing balls on the wall, and he has a really good, accurate throwing arm. Had a bunch of outfield assists the year before. Lars Nootbaar is a good athlete. All three of those guys are really good outfielders, but do you love the fact that any of them, do you feel good about any of them playing 135, 140 games in center? I think the answer is no.
Defensively, to me, the guy that could be the answer defensively is Carlson. But I will say he was good in center until he had to be good in center, and Bader was gone. He wasn't as good. He had injuries he was dealing with, and maybe he can get past that. The sense I get from talking to folks within the organization, they really think Carlson can be the player that they hope he can be, so they're going to give him a long look. That's why I was even surprised to read about Tyler O'Neill will be working out with the center fielders. Also, Nuke can be in center, as you point out. He's a good player. I'd be fine with any of them. I think the guy who has the best chance defensively, he's got to be more consistent offensively, is Dylan Carlson.
Nate, what do you think?
I think I would not have a problem with Carlson in center field for, 150-plus games. I think he's fully capable. I'm not I don't recall his play dropping off significantly in center field after the Bader trade. I know when Bader was on the IL, some of those catches that we're referring to going up against the wall were as good as any play in center field you're probably going to find. So I don't really have that concern. I do think the majority of the discussion about Tyler O'Neill getting reps in center field is, well, what happens when we have to make room for Jordan Walker in left? And this is all, predicated on him maybe making the roster.
Now, what do you think about my concern? And again, it's not a huge concern, but as the kids say, we're just chopping it up, right?
Yeah.
If Tyler O'Neill's main goal is to be the offensive guy he was a few years ago, i.e. staying on the field and being healthy, maybe you don't want to have him in center. Not saying you're destined to be hurt in center, but I think it's a more demanding position than left.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think it's good for discussion, I suppose. But, I mean, if we are really going to treat Tyler O'Neill's inability to stay on the field based on if he can or can't play one outfield position, then, man, that is really sad. In my opinion, then I don't know if he's durable enough to be a starting outfielder in Major League Baseball.
To me, I look at it as something you weigh into the equation. Like I'm not saying he can't be the center fielder. I'm saying if you have other options, I'd be fine with that. And you tuck him away in left where he's won 2 Gold Gloves. I'd be fine with that too. Can I play something for you?
Well, yeah.
This is something I want you to hear it. And this is something that we're going to have on Bally's in a coming up show. And I talked about this. Arenado said, because people will, can Edman be a Gold Glove shortstop? I think he can. Nolan Arenado, we agree, pretty good judge, right? Not a guy who's rights holder and just going to say, listen to how convinced he is that Tommy is not only a really good defensive player, can play shortstop. He said the best defensive player he's ever seen and ever played with. Let's see if I can figure this out and then play it for you guys here.
But he's the best fielder I've ever played with. I mean, really. I mean, he's unbelievable. He's elite at short and he's elite at second base. And to have somebody that could play both at an elite level is, there's not too many guys that can be elite at both, and he is. And he can play right field. He can play the outfield. I mean, he's so good. But him in the infield, like I said, he's probably the best fielder I've ever seen, ever played with. And I'm excited for him to be over there.
That's pretty telling, isn't it?
High praise.
Yeah. Well, I remember when he first came up, and he's out in right field. And in a crucial game against the D-backs, he threw out a guy from right field, and I think it was Chip Hale who was the manager at the time. I think. I might be getting that wrong for the D-backs. And he had coached Tommy before at a different level, and he said, look, it doesn't scare me that the Cardinals put a guy in right field who had no experience out there. I mean, he's just a ball player. And, just like the same people said that Tommy Edman couldn't handle the rigors of shortstop. How could he do that? I think Tommy's going to put in the work on and off the field to prepare himself to play a very demanding position. And he's going to be really good at what he does. I just hope that he cuts down on the strikeouts and becomes a little bit more of a consistent offensive threat.
No, that's fair. When he was put in right field that game, wherever they were on the road, I remember I see him in the lineup there. I hadn't seen it before, and I asked him, when was the last time he played right field? He said, I think I was 13. And he's like, I'll be fine. I'm a baseball player, and he was.
Yeah, and I don't think, especially after you saw him in the big leagues, I don't think anybody is worried about Tommy Edman as a shortstop moving forward. I think with the Cardinals, with shortstop and center field, you just wonder about how they look at those positions in the near term and the long term. And I think with both of them, if you ask John Mozeliak, he'd probably tell you, how would you like the defense to look in 2024? They probably do want Mason Wynn to be their shortstop of the future. And again, that's not a slight on Tommy Edman. He moves right back to being a legit, probably Gold Glover every single year at second base. And then it's super valuable to have Brendan Donovan, who can play elite level Gold Glove at 6 different positions. Especially nowadays, we talk about load management in the NBA. They're taking Arenado and Goldschmidt off their feet about 20 times each. Brendan Donovan can move all the way around the field. And then back to center field. Again, I think if the Cardinals had it their way, because Dylan Carlson's under control for 5 more years. Tyler O'Neill only a couple years. I think they want Dylan Carlson to win the job in center field, but you also have to have contingency plans. The other part is whoever doesn't hit, or if Walker comes up, let's be real, they have too many outfielders. So I don't know who's going to get moved, but somebody is. Whether it's Yepez or Burleson or Carlson. I don't think they're going to trade Carlson soon. But at the trade deadline, if they feel like they're going to move on, they're going to move on from somebody if Jordan Walker's here because they have too many bodies. So they need to have options.
And Yepes, I think, doesn't get enough attention because that guy, the Cardinals have had so many guys who tore up the minor leagues and sort of catapulted to the bigs. Yepes, Burleson, Walker. Well, like you said, you don't have room for them. I think Yepes could be that too. The question is, the World Baseball Classic is probably a godsend for the Cards now because it's going to give those guys more time for them to figure out who gets the shot.
Just stay healthy.
Just stay healthy, baby. And here's another thing about that. So like Burleson had a great AAA season. Now, in my opinion, what did he get with the Cardinals? I think it was less than 50 plate appearances. I'll look it up. He didn't do well, but still, I don't think anybody is writing off Alec Burleson. He could still be really, really good. Now, maybe he's a trade chip. But look at Juan Yepes. Had the biggest hit for the Cardinals, home run, in the playoffs. And in his rookie year, was actually really dang good. I mean, Juan Yepes had 12 homers, 30 RBIs, in 274 plate appearances. Hit 253, slugged 447. In his rookie year, had a 111 OPS plus. I mean, he was above average in a role that's kind of hard to be a guy that's not getting everyday at bats. You're going to get a spot out there in the outfield here and there, little DH here and there. Like Juan Yepes was really good in his first year. That's very promising.
Yeah, that's why I think he doesn't get enough attention. Jordan Walker's kind of like the shiny new thing, and I get why. And to me, we've talked about it before. Here's a young guy adjusting as he just cranks out level after level and has success. And they go, oh, by the way, you're going to be in the outfield. Oh, now you're going to be in center field. And he handled everything beautifully. So all signs point to a guy who can probably have some impact this year. But they have other guys, too.
How about Nolan Gorman? And not necessarily an outfielder. Although I do wonder if Nolan Gorman down the road, whether it's with the Cardinals somewhere else, does he end up in a corner outfield spot? Does he end up as a first baseman? He's clearly blocked positionally here. And I think he can play.
DH,
Okay, and also,
need a lefty bat.
Yes, and I'm not writing off him as a second baseman here and there. Is he going to play 140 games at second base? Probably not. But I think it's funny when we talk about prospects because last year, Nolan Gorman sets AAA on fire. Everybody wants to bring him up. Does pretty dang good. Then he gets sent down. Also had a big hit in the postseason. And now I feel like because Jordan Walker is the new bright, shiny object, as he should be, we're kind of forgetting about Nolan Gorman, who, like Yepes, was really pretty dang good as a rookie and should only get better.
Same goes with Burleson. He was that shiny object. Got to bring this guy up. Okay, now where are we going to put him? They just don't have a lot of spots.
Gorman really fits the mold of like modern baseball, where if you can hit 40 home runs and get away with maybe batting, sub 240, as long as you're getting the necessary walks and you're hitting for power. He did struggle with the fastball a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. So if he can catch on to that a little sooner, I think the sky's the limit with him, though. He could be a borderline 45, 50 home run hitter in his prime, and you'll take that, especially in modern-day baseball.
If he can do that, and he's power from the left side,
his absolute ceiling.
That's what they need. That's why I was gung-ho on them getting a proven lefty bat to balance out their lineup. If he can be anything close to that, that would be a big help. So I'm going to ask you, Charlie, and then I'm going to ask the others. Who do you think is going to click first? Who is a guy that's going to be able? So let's put Yepes on there. Let's put Walker on there. Let's put Gorman on there, and let's put Burleson on there. Who's going to be the guy that's going to get the traction and then have a better season this year? I think that's a legit question.
Good question. Of that group, I think Yepes will be good, but in a more limited role than I think Nolan Gorman will be a big-time asset for the Cardinals. I think he's going to find his way into 450, 500 plate appearances, just kind of playing all over a little bit of second, some DH versus righty situations. And again, I don't know what he's going to bat in terms of batting average, which, look, I'm not this person that says batting average is not a stat we should look at all. But in the modern day baseball, like everybody's looking at Lars Nootbaar as this great player. He hit 220. But he walks and he hits for power. And that's what teams really want. And we know that Nolan Gorman can hit for power. We need him to get on base more to be able to go out there and get those at-bats. It would not surprise me at all if Nolan Gorman hits, let's say, 28 home runs this year.
So he's your guy.
Of that group,
Yeah, that's
yes. Because that's kind of the secondary group. Isn't that fair to say? Like,
Yes.
Because I think most people would agree the way the Cardinals do business, they are going to give the O'Neill, Carlson, Newt Bar trifecta every opportunity, and at least the first opportunity to succeed and stay out there.
I think we don't know what Jordan Walker is, but I think there's a great chance that he could have a great spring training and catapult him into the season.
And this is where
Water.
I got you, buddy. This is where the whole conversation about position players is something that I just don't personally worry about as much as starting pitching, because I think, Jim's question was after the first three guys of O'Neill, Carlson, Newt Bar, who of that next group? And Seth, Nate, that's four other pretty good options when you're talking about Yepez, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, Alec Burleson. I mean, right there, and you can throw in a Brendan Donovan who can play some outfield guys. That's 7 guys. They all don't need to play well. Like, if 4 or 5 of them hit, that's a pretty good offense for the Cardinals.
I like the flexibility of the middle infield so much. Normally, I'm big on don't fix what isn't broken. So if Tommy Edmonds is second baseman, Gold Glover, then keep him there. But that's also a guy that anything that he's been asked to do, he's stepped up and done it. I mean, he even played third base before Arenado was there. So that's a guy I feel comfortable with coming in and playing shortstop. And then if Donovan wants to play second. But a lot of players I wouldn't be, intrigued in doing that. But because it's Tommy Edman and he's been so flexible and is such a hard worker, I would do it.
And by the way, when you read the reports of who the Cardinals were potentially going to trade in the offseason for a catcher, say, and more so what players other teams wanted, like every team in baseball would love to have a Brendan Donovan that can get on base and play every position. Every team in baseball would love to have a Tommy Edman who can play Gold Glove, short, second, and really anywhere. Every team would love to have a Lars Nootbaar who can give you power and walks from a corner spot, but also play a little center field. Like, the Cardinals do have a lot of defensive versatility and a lot of upside with their position players.
And with Wynn, who's not there yet, obviously, he was a pitcher. Now, he's a little guy. He's not a big, tall guy. But I was talking to some of the minor leaguers that know him and have seen him pitch, and they said his stuff is sick. So I asked him, could you be like eventually down the road in Ohtani? And he said, to be honest with you, shortstop is such a demanding position you couldn't. He said, but if I was at second base or somewhere else, maybe I could do that.
And we're talking about a guy who, his arm in the minor leagues, he wasn't being discussed as just the best minor league arm. We're talking about, from a position player standpoint, the best infield arm or the best position player arm in all of baseball. Like, that's how elite, right, in professional baseball. That's how elite Mason Wynn's arm is.
Yeah, so as far as the outfield, I've been thinking about it. If you could make a case for all 3 outfielders, that if you're going off recency bias, you've got Nootbaar. If you're going off highest ceiling or prospect wise, you're looking at Dylan Carlson, and then if you're looking at one season alone, you're looking at Tyler O'Neill. So that is extremely interesting as far as who you think is going to be the best player in the outfield. I don't know. I just think I think you can make a case for each player, and if they all hit their peak, then because I'm more comfortable with the infield more than anything. I like Donovan, the way he works his bats. I like Edman. I'll be interested to see how Wynn does. And I do like the idea that what Jim said, if he moves to second base, is there a realistic chance he could pitch?
No, I don't think so. But it's an intriguing thing because his arm was sick. Like, people that saw his curveball and his fastball were like, this guy's the real deal. But it's fun to talk about. But I don't think it's anything. He said, too, when you're a shortstop, there's just too much that you have to get used to. And but he knows he's not in the mix probably for this year down the road. But he's one of the reasons, and he's aware of it, why they didn't go out and get a big-ticket guy at shortstop, because you're going to have Tommy Edman there, who's going to have a WAR as high as any of those guys probably, hopefully, but could win a Gold Glove at shortstop. If you listen to Nolan Arenado, he says he will.
Yeah, and that's where, because when I think of Mason Wynn, I kind of think of Michael Lorenzen, but it's the opposite. I think it's different if you're a relief pitcher that can also hit, But if you're a stud shortstop, that is so valued that you don't really want to mess with that. Like Lorenzen is a relief pitcher who's really good, but he also can hit a bomb for you, and he'll play right field and make a diving catch. But nobody really wants Michael Lorenzen to play 150 games in the field, whereas with the Cardinals, again, in their perfect scenario, I think they want Mason Wynn starting in 2024 to play 135-plus games at shortstop for the next 5-6 years. And I do think that's the best plan moving forward if it happens. If Mason Wynn has a bad season, I think the Cardinals are just fine with Tommy Edman playing shortstop for the next 1, 2, 3 years until they figure it out. But I think the big picture plan is Mason Wynn to be a big-time shortstop and a guy who is plus offensively and defensively.
The big question, though, is can Jack be Jack, right? We've talked about that ad nauseum. So Jack, when I sat him down, he knows that. And he's like, that's going to make me better. Like, I know people are questioning that. He said, I'm fine, and I can't wait to get out and show it. But he kind of laughs. He's like, I know that everyone they talk about the Cardinals say, can I be Jack?
No doubt.